Welcome back everyone. So in this video I will be describing about the entire travel history of your food. When you take in food, what happens to your food? So let's begin our journey. So in my earlier video you have seen this, how to draw the human digestive system. One thing was left out. I'm very sorry about that. That's the salivary gland. So you can add that in your diagram whatsoever. So the digestive system of the human being is a kind of tube whose beginning is the mouth and the ending is the anus. So the part description is already there in the earlier video. We'll describe the functions now. So when we take in food, the ingestion takes in through the mouth. So you know the 5 steps of holozoic nutrition. So the first process is ingestion. Ingestion, ingestion. So ingestion means taking in the food. So we take in the food with the help of our mouth. Now the opening of the mouth is guarded by our lips. So we know that apart from helping in speech, the lips, the main function of lips is that it forms a kind of covering which prevents the food from falling out from the buccal cavity to outside, or it also prevents unwanted substances from entering into your buccal cavity. So that is the function of our lips. Now beyond the lips lies our teeth. Now when we are talking about teeth, so all of you know that during our entire lifetime, human beings, we develop 2 sets of teeth. We have got the milk teeth and we have the permanent teeth, milk teeth and the permanent teeth. So milk teeth are 20 in number, permanent teeth are 32 in number. So when we talk about teeth, there are 4 types of teeth. The first type, which are there in the front, these are wedge shaped. These are wedge shaped teeth. They have sharp cutting edge. So these are called incisors, and incisors helps in biting. So they will help in biting and cutting. So that's called your incisor. Now on the side of the incisors there are some pointed teeth, not so pointed in human beings because of our omnivorous food habit. These are called the canine. And the third and the fourth type, they have a broad tip and the base has wide roots. So these wide flat top teeth, which are used for crushing and grinding, these are called premolars and molars. Now when we talk about teeth, the teeth is represented by something which is called a dental formula. अब ये dental formula क्या होता है? Like it is represented as I, C, PM and M. Here also I, C, PM and M. अब ये होता क्या है? This is the way to represent the dental formula. I means incisor, C means canine, PM means premolar, M means molar. That means these are the 4 types of teeth. Why we have written 2? Because there is upper jaw, there is lower jaw. Now suppose there is one jaw of teeth. Suppose this is the upper jaw. So this side, one half में जितना दांत होगा, दूसरे half में भी उतना ही दांत होगा. So what happens is that only one half of one jaw is represented. Here also one half of the lower jaw. So for example, in case of our milk teeth, the dental formula is 2120 and 2120. Okay, now why we are writing both upper half and lower half, upper jaw and lower jaw? Because in our case it is same, but in case of other animals the numbers are maybe different in both the jaws. So whatsoever, so 2 incisor, 1 canine, 2 premolar and no molars. So 2 plus 1 plus 2, 5. 5 in one half, so 5 in another half. Below also 5 in one half, 5 in another half, so total 20. So this is for milk teeth. And when we will develop permanent teeth, after the milk teeth falls, it is 2, 1, 2, 3. Below also 2, 1, 2, 3. So अभी देख लो कितना होता है, 2, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, एक हाफ में 8, दूसरे हाफ में 8. Other half is 8, other half 8. So 8 into 4 is 32. So that is how the dental formula is decided. Now, what is the main function of the teeth? Main function of the teeth is that it helps in grinding the food. So digestion will be better when the food will be converted from big particles into very fine particles. So that grinding of the teeth is carried out with the help of the teeth. Grinding of the food, is carried out with the help of the teeth. And when the food is grinded, there is another muscular structure behind, which is the tongue, and the tongue will help in mixing the food with the saliva. Saliva is secreted from the salivary gland. We have 3 pairs of salivary gland, one below the tongue, one here, one here. So there are 3 pairs of salivary gland which will secrete the saliva, and the saliva will get mixed with the food. Now let's come to function of the tongue. First function of the tongue is that it helps in mixing of the food with the saliva. Second function of the tongue is that it helps in speech. Third function of the tongue is that the tongue helps us to get the taste of the food. The tongue has got fine taste buds which helps us to get the taste of the food. Tongue also helps us to judge the temperature of the food, and tongue helps in pushing. अब जब food यहाँ से यहाँ आएगा, so that pushing of the food is done by the muscular tongue. So it helps in pushing the food deeper into the our buccal cavity. Salivary gland secretes a very watery fluid which is called saliva, and that saliva is more or less, the pH is more or less neutral, very near to neutral. So the salivary gland, when it secretes the saliva, what is the function of saliva? First function is that saliva contains an enzyme called lysozyme, which has antibacterial property. It can kill the microbes present in your food. So what happens, you must have seen animals when they get injured during fight, they lick their wound. They contain actually that saliva helps in, acts as an antiseptic. Saliva also helps in making the food slippery so that the food can be easily passed down through the food pipe. And saliva also contains an enzyme which is called salivary amylase. So that salivary amylase will help in converting your starch into a simple food item which is called maltose. Maltose is a sugar. It is actually a double sugar. Okay, so that is the more or less function of, here I have written the function of saliva. Abhi kya hota hai? Now after that food, now this process of mixing the food with the saliva is called mastication. So when the food will get mixed with the food, when the saliva will get mixed with the food, it forms some ball-like structure, and those ball-like structure is called bolus, and these bolus is passed down. So there is a partition here, a kind of covering which is called epiglottis, which will prevent the food from entering into your windpipe. So the food will be pushed down the food pipe, that is the esophagus. Now when it enters the esophagus, esophagus acts as a connecting link between the buccal cavity and the stomach, so that the food can pass through this is the chest cavity. So to pass through the chest cavity, this esophagus it has got no digestive function. So kya hota hai? How the food will move through the entire esophagus? It moves in the form of some wave-like contraction and expansion movement. Such contraction and expansion movement is called peristalsis. For example, suppose this is the esophagus. It is made up of some circular muscles, and it is also made up of some longitudinal muscles like this. So the longitudinal muscles will contract, and the circular muscles will also contract and expand, thereby pushing the food. Suppose there is the food. So the food is suppose coming in this direction. So kya hota hai? Suppose these are the circular muscles. So the circular muscles behind the food will contract, and the circular muscles in front of the food will expand, and thereby the food will be pushed. Similarly, the longitudinal muscles in front will contract, and as the food goes in front, the longitudinal muscles will expand, just like we wear our socks. Okay, so now the food reaches the widest part of the digestive system, and the widest part of the digestive system is the stomach. So as the food reaches the stomach, there are two valves of the stomach which prevents or allows the food to move in one direction. So inside the stomach, what happens? There are some digestive glands, and the digestive glands in the stomach are called gastric glands. So gastric glands secretes both hydrochloric acid and one very important enzyme which is called pepsinogen. So that is what is secreted from the gastric glands. So gastric gland will secrete gastric juice, and the composition of the gastric juice is hydrochloric acid and pepsinogen. So let us see what is the function of hydrochloric acid. First of all, hydrochloric acid will activate inactive pepsinogen. So pepsinogen is an inactive enzyme. Why inactive? Because it is a protein digesting enzyme. Your stomach wall is also made up of protein. So if this enzyme is secreted in an activated state, it will directly absorb your or digest your stomach walls also. So it is first secreted in an inactive condition, pepsinogen, which is then activated to pepsin with the help of HCl. And HCl also kills harmful microbes in the stomach. After that, what happens? This pepsinogen, which will get activated to pepsin, it will convert the proteins into two intermediate form. One is peptones and proteoses. So peptones and proteoses, these are partially digested proteins. So the partially digested food is now called chyme, chyme, chyme. And then from the stomach, the chyme will move where? Will move into the small intestine. And we should also remember there is another gland along with the gastric glands, and that is called mucous glands. And the mucous glands secrete a slimy secretion called mucus, the same mucus which is found in your nose. The same mucus is found in your stomach also. So the mucous gland will secrete mucus, and the mucus will form a protective layer inside the stomach so that it is not corroded by the strong hydrochloric acid. It is very strong. The pH is around 2 inside the stomach. Okay. So upon entering the small intestine, you should know, is divided into three parts: duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Duodenum is the first part. So what happens in duodenum? Duodenum, this is the first part. Duodenum, it receives secretion from two organs. One is the liver and another one is the pancreas. So from the liver, bile juice will be secreted. So that bile will be stored temporarily in the gallbladder, and when required from the gallbladder, bile will be secreted through the bile duct into the duodenum. Okay. So what is the function of bile? First function of bile is that it converts acidic medium of chyme to alkaline medium, because all the pancreatic enzymes will function only in an alkaline medium. Second is it creates alkaline medium for proper action of pancreatic enzymes. And third is bile causes emulsification of fats. Now this is very important function of bile. Bile contains certain salts which converts big fats into very small fat droplets. So the big fat globules, when converted into fine fat droplets, this process is called emulsification of fats, and that is done by bile salts. So what is the advantage? On breaking into fine fat droplets, the surface area of the fat increases and it is easy for the fat digesting enzyme to work on. Next we come to from the pancreas. Pancreas is a very critical organ. I told you it is an exoendocrine organ. Why exoendocrine? Endocrine because it secretes hormones, and why exocrine? Because it secretes certain enzymes, and the enzymes are contained in a juice which is called pancreatic juice. So pancreatic juice will come out through the pancreatic duct, which joins with the bile duct, and both the duct will continue as common duct which is called hepatopancreatic duct. So the pancreatic juice will also come. Now pancreatic juice, it contains these enzymes, because our food mainly contains three components, that is your carbohydrate, fats and protein. So like pancreatic enzyme contains pancreatic lipase. Pancreatic lipase will convert emulsified fats into fatty acids and glycerol. Then It contains an enzyme called trypsin, which will convert peptones and proteases. Remember, proteins were broken into peptones and proteases by pepsin. Now these peptones and proteases will be broken into peptides by trypsin. And the third enzyme which is present is pancreatic amylase, which will convert starch, most of our food, whether you have rice, roti, aloo, potato, anything, all these contain starch, and that starch is converted by pancreatic amylase into maltose. Now I told you that happens even in our mouth, but in our mouth what happens, the food doesn't stay for long, so only partial digestion of starch takes place. You take a piece of bread and keep on chewing, after some time you'll start feeling sweet, because starch is a complex carbohydrate, it is not sweet, it is converted into maltose, which is sugar, and that is sweet, so you feel the sweetness. But we don't keep our food in our mouth so long, so the main digestion of starch takes place with the help of pancreatic amylase. Now after the duodenum, from the duodenum, now the food moves into jejunum, the second part. So in the jejunum, our duodenum did not have any digestive glands in its lining. It only got digestive juice from where? From the pancreas and from the liver. Okay, itself inside its wall it did not have any digestive glands, but jejunum, there are some digestive glands in the lining of the jejunum, and these digestive glands which are present in the lining of the jejunum, these are called the name of these glands are called intestinal glands, and it is in the jejunum that the last part of digestion will take place. Okay, so this intestinal juice, this is secreted from the intestinal glands. Intestinal juice has got a name. It is also called succus entericus. So this is the other name for the intestinal juice. This intestinal juice contains these enzymes. Maltose is a double sugar. Double sugar means it is made up of two molecules of simple sugar. So this maltose will be converted into two molecules of glucose by an enzyme called maltase. This maltase is present in the intestinal juice. Suppose we have sugar. So that sugar contains actually the name of the double sugar present in the sugar that we have or fruit juice is sucrose. That sucrose will be converted by sucrase into glucose, one molecule of glucose and one molecule of fructose. Sucrase is the enzyme. And suppose when we have milk, milk also contains an enzyme which is the milk sugar, and that milk sugar is called lactose. That is also a double sugar. It will be converted by lactase into one molecule of glucose and one molecule of galactose. Proteins were converted into peptones, proteases were broken into peptides. Now these peptides will be converted by another enzyme called chymotrypsin into amino acids. So amino acids are the simplest form of your proteins. Now in this form it can be absorbed. Now we should remember, fat digestion is a single step digestion. Like fats are converted into fatty acids and glycerol, it's fine, it ends there. However, if any fat remains, there is another enzyme which is intestinal lipase, and that intestinal lipase will convert the remaining fats into fatty acids and glycerol. So these are the end products of digestion. These are the end products of carbohydrate digestion: glucose, fructose and galactose. These are all single and simple sugar. End product of protein digestion is amino acid, and end product of fat digestion is fatty acids and glycerol. Now we come to the absorption part, where the food will be absorbed. So after jejunum, the food then moves into the third part of the small intestine, which is the longest part of the small intestine. It is called ileum. Now inside the ileum, suppose this is the ileum, you will find fine finger-like projections. And these fine finger-like projections are called villi. So you know that when something is converted into finger-like projection, the main purpose is to increase the surface area. Inside each villus, there is the structure of a single villus. Inside each villus, we have a network of blood capillaries and a network of lymph vessels. Okay, a lymph capillary and blood capillaries. So when the digested food will move through the ileum, it will wash the villi, and as it washes the villi, the end product of protein and carbohydrate digestion, that is amino acids, glucose, galactose and fructose, will be absorbed in the blood capillaries. That means they will get absorbed in the blood. Whereas end product of fat digestion, that is fatty acids and glycerol, they will get absorbed in the lymph. Lymph is another fluid just like blood which flows through our body. So that will get absorbed inside the lymph. Okay. So after it gets absorbed, so this is the third step, that is your absorption. Digestion was the second step, this is absorption. After the food is digested, now with the help of the blood and the lymph, all the components will be taken to different cells of our body where the cells will collect them, and that is called assimilation or uptake of the nutrients. Now what remains? What remains is undigested food and water. So that undigested food and water will now, so here was the small intestine, and from the small intestine what begins? Large intestine. So if you look into the diagram of the digestive system, you will find that, so from the small intestine, so now the undigested food and water, which is a kind of slurry, so semi-solid substance, so it will start slowly moving upwards. Okay, much against gravity, very slow, it will move upward. And inside the large intestine also there are villi like structure which will absorb the water. So water and salts will be absorbed in the large intestine, and by the time the food reaches the transverse part of the large intestine, it gets converted into semi-solid fecal matter, and slowly by peristalsis the fecal matter will come. It will get temporarily stored in the rectum and it will be egested out through the anus. So the end of the anus is guarded by your sphincter muscle, so the fecal matter which will get stored here, it will come out through the anus. Fecal matter is mostly yellow in or ochre in color. The reason is due to the bile salts. So the bile salts which are secreted, those are yellow in color, that is yellow, and that gives a characteristic yellow color to the fecal matter. So this is the overall digestion which occurs in case of human digestive system. The first step, ingestion, digestion starting from mouth itself, stomach, small intestine, okay, then absorption in the small intestine, assimilation in the cells, and ultimately egestion. So these are the 5 steps of holozoic nutrition which happens in human digestive system. Thank you.